Welcome back to the Banana Republic. As you heard today, sleepyhead Eamon Ryan woke up today. He woke up finally. He's been asleep for the last week. He's been sleeping in the door. Nobody's woke him up. He woke up this morning. And he started talking shit. So yeah, what he's basically trying to say now, he's going to ban all smoky coal. Beforehand, it was all towns over 10,000 people. Was the coal banned? He could only use smokeless coal. And obviously Eamon Ryan and the Green Party want to go off on the mad, I don't know, tangent. Because again, they just want as much money as they can out of everybody. Because again, it's not about 70 environment. Because as I say, and again, I asked Eamon Ryan a few weeks ago, I set off documents, I set off a big report on illegal dumping and things like that, saying that the government should do something about that instead of running around after people who just spawned a few bits of coal. Because obviously it is a danger to health in a big setting, but in the back end of nowhere, in the back end of a country lane, 3 or 4 people lighting a fire and putting a bit of code, that's not going to kill the environment, let's be honest. And I say, as I say to Eamon Ryan, I say to the Irish government, and I say to the United Nations and the rest of them, why is China burning millions upon billions of plastic into the atmosphere? Because they have all the factories, all our plastic bits and bobs come from China. Why is the United Nations and Ireland, the Irish government, not going to China? Because obviously China promotes more emissions into the atmosphere. Because obviously they have big industry. They have to wear face masks around, even before the COVID-19 pandemic. They wear face masks around because they're just pumping in smoke 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, up into the air. From factories and for big industrial places in China, and not a word said about that, not a word done about it, and they're probably throwing pollution into the oceans. I wouldn't put it past China. And again, you don't see Eamon Ryan going to the Chinese ambassador in Ireland and saying do something about it. Ireland strongly condemns what you're doing to the atmosphere because it is China's to blame. There's loads of countries in the world that are not getting any, that you're literally getting off with more. We might as well say straight. Because again, you look at any picture in China, and there's big factories pumping out smoke, pumping out loads of plastic into the atmosphere, making plastic objects. And again, the Irish government does nothing about it. And people might say, it's the bigger issue. And I will admit that it is bad for people's health, for a lot of fires to be lit in the big area. Because I remember when I was growing up, there was a lot of people lighting fires. And it was bad. It did make you cough and it did kind of make you cry a bit because with all the smoke and all the things you're hearing. I will admit that in the big urban setting, I understand why the government got rid of it in towns and cities. That's understandable, but I'm talking about it because it's a different situation when you're on the back end of nowhere, in the back end of a country road with only 3 or 4 houses around you. People like in Kerry, for example, or the West End of Cavan. Obviously, cities and towns understand that. But again, it's the big thing because Eamon Ryan's bringing this in now. And as I said at the time, I did send off letters and things about what Eamon Ryan could do to I suppose the reinforced authority with illegal dumping and littering offences. And it basically was rejected. They said nothing about it. They really didn't want anything to do with it. Because again, they just couldn't be asked. Because again, they do have to go chasing people up for it and they don't want to do that. Chasing people up for illegal dumping. Because again, it takes a lot of paperwork and it takes a lot of, especially if the person refuses and it goes to court. It's a big clusterfuck, and I mean it is a big fuck clusterfuck. Forgive me for my language, but it is just a mess when it has to go to courts. It just takes a long time and it just drags out. It just really just drags out. But no, Eamon Ryan was like, fuck that. We're spending ridiculous. Cavan County Council last year spent 1.7, nearly 1.5 million on illegal dumping alone. That's cleaning up illegal dumping alone and litter, which is a huge chunk of the budget, and obviously it's good to be used. So we better go into the people than go into the politicians. But yeah, that's just the thing. Eamon Ryan, I don't know what he's shouting about, but Eamon Ryan, cop on a bit. Please do cop on. Because again, as I say too, loads of people have lost their jobs and never probably going to get a job probably for a long, long time to come. Loads of businesses are shut and Eamon Ryan's coming around. He'd probably bring it in. I wouldn't be surprised if he bring it in this year. And he'd be like, yes, ban all the coal, because again, it's expensive. Smokeless coal's expensive. Like, I get smokeless coal here. Just because we want to really, it's there, it's just there for us, and we're just like, we might as well, because we put the money towards it, we go out of our way to put the money towards it, not because we do have to, but we're just because we feel like it. But again, there's many people doesn't have that luxury, and again, a lot of older people particularly, the only thing they have, and I know my father for example, he has nothing else but his fire, and that's as simple as he's fire in his kitchen, in his sitting room, and he sits there and he watches the telly And I even remember when I was younger, we only had the fire. I only had the fire when I was growing up in the house. That was the only thing that kept me warm. And as I tell you straight, there was nothing else in the house that could keep me warm. We had a few electric radiators, but at the end of the day, that did nothing. It was the fire that really kept the house going and everything. So, and that's because I was living in an old house. But again, Eamon Ryan doesn't understand this. He's asleep. He just wakes up and he doesn't know where he is, and he's just talking shite. Same as Normal 40. Him and Normal 40 be well matched. Just keep talking shite. But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. I know some people be like, we have to do it, and I understand that because this is bad in people's health, and I understand that. But again, my point is, in the back end of nowhere, where there's fuck all people, it's not going to kill the environment. It's not going to kill the planet. Let's be honest. I think Eamon Ryan and the Irish government and Taoiseach and the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach Micheál Martin should make an application, send it to the ambassador to China, bring it over to Xi Jinping or whatever the Chinese person is, or dictator, and send it over to him and say, reduce your carbon footprint, reduce your amount of factories, and I suppose diplomatic disapprove, if you may use that word, and just send that over to China, and try and get China to change their ways, because they're the bigger problem than a few people bought a code in this country. It's a laugh. It's well, and the United Nations are giving out about every other country in the world, and then they won't look towards China. They won't look towards all these countries. No. We couldn't do that. We couldn't look towards China. What we do if we look towards China? Because again, they're paid off. They really are paid off, and let's be honest. And I don't expect Eamon Ryan to do anything about going to the Chinese ambassador. I'm sure he's afraid of the Chinese ambassador. I'm sure he's afraid of every person in power in China. That's what dictatorships are. But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think and subscribe for more, and bye.